Well, I may have messed up my swale. I'll show it to you here in a sec, but I wanted to show you something real quick. This is my vetiver swale, and I should have already cut the brown off, but you can see the vetivers growing up in here. So a few years ago, I'd built this swale. A few years ago we had a big rain event where it was like 12 inches of rain in a very short amount of time. I can't remember if it was a weekend or a week, but it's so bad that about 60 miles south of us, whole houses were getting swept into the Lampasas River. I'm sorry, the San Marcos River. Anyway, when that happened, this swale stayed full of water for, I'd say, 6 or 8 weeks. And what was happening is, you look over here and we're in the Texas hill country, so you got all these hills back here. So my best speculation is that big rain event, it took up to 6 weeks for that water to travel underground from there down here onto my property. And I remember all the trees I had parked up over here, planted up over here. Like I said, this stayed full of water for, let's say 4 to 6 weeks. All the trees lost their leaves, just some kind of fungus from sitting in the water. And I remember looking at the berm, and on the berm side, water's just sheathing out of it. And I never could understand the reason. This is full of water, water's sheathing out here, but yet this water level's staying the same. And keep past that, there was nothing noticeable above ground. And I'm like, this is the first swale I'd ever built, don't understand how swales work, and it just confused me. But it's like, to me, it ended up becoming some kind of depth gauge for your water table, and I actually use that to success. Like in the heat of the summer, if there's water in here, I wouldn't worry about watering trees on my property, but when it was dry, I would people driving by. Anyway, if it was dry, then I'm like, okay, I need to go water my new trees. I kind of use that as a gauge for me. Anyway, so let me turn around and show you what I did, and you tell me if I messed up or not. So I wanted to widen it and clean it, and because of the vetiver over here and the trees I've got up here, I would normally just come in this way with a tractor bucket, scoop it, dump it over here, and do that along the whole range. Because of the vetiver, because of the trees, I just came straight in with a skid steer, so the swale's now the width of the skid steer bucket. But I answered the question. It was like, this is one of those profound moments, like, you think you know what's going on, and that's the thing I guess you don't understand about water retention. You only see what's happening above ground, you don't see what's happening below ground. But in this case, I'm pretty sure that this is all clay. I'm confident that this is clay. In fact, when I was digging it, I had a little bit of standing water on it, and when I dug it out, hitting that clay layer lifted the bucket out, it was dry underneath. That means that this clay was holding the water above it. So exactly what was happening was happening. I mean, it may be that we have this clay layer going all the way up, all the way up, all the way up, and that water is just running literally 8 inches below the ground, just flowing down here, coming out, riding one of these lines, riding this line or riding this line, whichever one's a true clay. Anyway, I thought that was pretty neat. But anyway, so because of that, I got real aggressive, started digging deeper. It's like, I got clay. I mean, for other parts of the country, can dig a hole and it's all clay and it's going to hold water. That's not the case here. You got to find clay. You got to have clay. So anyway, I dug it out super aggressive. I'm not happy with what I did because, we've got animals like horses to be out here, and I don't know that I want to let them out here because of that big cliff right there on both sides. But I did harvest a lot of clay. I'm happy with that. I think my solution is I'm going to get an excavator in here that'll allow me to slope it, roughly 45-degree angle. Here may not be 45 because of that, or it may be 45, but I have to add dirt and just reshape it. But I think with an excavator I can get in here and do it without damaging the trees and damaging the vetiver. But this is, I don't know, it was a bad thing, but it was also a good thing because I got clay. And I'll show you my clay hoard. Let me walk up to it. Okay, so this is my clay hoard. Once I realized what was happening, I was kind of sorting it, what looked like clay I was bringing over here. You can see when it was wet, this was like super shiny, slippery. You can see it cracking now. Anyway, if it looked like clay, I brought it up here, and let me show you what I did with the rest of it, particularly the topsoil. I'm gonna take another little walk real quick. Actually, one more thing to show you before I head down there. This is the diversion swale. Anyway, when I was scooping up the vetiver swale, the top layer, I was kind of sorting it. If it looked like clay, I was putting it in that pile. If it didn't look like clay, I put it over here. Let me step up so I can explain this again. So I've had just a vetiver swale is over there, so the water shoots down here. Anyway, this area here was trapping the water. I've got a diversion swale over here. Let me walk over to it. Okay, so this is my diversion swale. Water flows down here, goes in that culvert, ends up in my terrace system, which is infiltrating the water, and then it ends up into my sediment pond, which then makes it to my other pond. Anyway, after the rain, when I came out and I took a step back, this whole thing was kind of V-shaped. Right here at this cedar tree, water here flowed this way, water here flowed that way. It was creating a big seepage problem. Back down over here, it stayed soggy wet. So what I thought wasn't heavy clay content, I've been filling in from the cedar tree over, and you can see because there's no grass there, and kind of mounded it up so it slopes down. So all the water that comes down is going to hit this, travel this way, and then make it down the path I wanted it to go down. Anyway, this is going to be very beneficial to me. Anyway, the water used to just flood down here, flood in my shop, and I'd have ½ inch of sediment in my shop after a heavy rain. So I'm just uphill of it, catching all that and redirecting it, pushing it to the left. Like I said, there's nothing downhill that needs water. I got a little slope here, but past that, it's parking lot and shop area. Anyway, sorry for all the interruptions. I think right now we're going to somewhere else. We'll be right there though. All right, well this is Candyland. This is an area where I selectively let the cows in because I want the grass to get tall. We're coming out of a pretty rough winter. We actually had like 11 degrees or so for a few nights. Anyway, this was all, well, so I got a pocket pond over here, and when I dug it, I put the dirt over here, and I wanted to just kind of make a arched area here of even if it was a 1-inch elevation grade, that little dam would hold water here. Anyway, but it was kind of limestoney, dust kind of looking stuff, and I was having a hard time with the grass growing. We ended up cleaning out the horse stable, so I put all the manure in here. But it's not, I mean, you're seeing some bald spots, but when you go further back, see if I pan out. There you go. If I just showed you a picture of that, you'd say, wow, that's some nice grazing area. Anyway, it's doing pretty good. And let me go over to the side where you can see the height differential just from not grazing it. I mean, it's always a good thing to do is when you're grazing, it's like you think the grass is not growing, but if you had an area where the cows can't get to, you can kind of see the difference. And if you got an area where you're not rotational grazing or not moving them around, they're just in one area, fence off a little 3-foot circle and look at the difference. You'll see what the impact of the animal is doing to your ranch. But in this case, it's, I mean, just straight down that electrical fence line, you can see the height differential is pretty obvious. So sometimes the grass is growing, it's just the animals are eating it too fast. So a hay ring, a little circle fence, something out on your pasture to show you what the grass would look like if animals weren't on it. It will kind of help you along. I'm going to show you one more thing over here, and then we're going to go to a pocket pond that just cleared out. So that's the one log dam right over here. I had the deer feeder up over here, and the deer feeder, just with all the deer there, they turned that ground into just bare dirt. So to heal that, this whole area that was bare dirt, I put 2, maybe 3 round bales on it, so that puts a mulch layer on that area so we can heal. And right there's remnants of another round bale. It just takes time for it to recover, but it's adding fertility. You can see another one over there. Anyway, I'm gonna go show you a pocket pond just because I just dug it out and cleaned it out and added some rock overflow. Let me show you that real quick and then we'll call this thing a day. Well, I'm back in just to introduce you to my cows. These are my breeder cows. On the left is Justin, he's our bull. And Shamrock is next to him and Taffy is to the right. So our operation here is really just, we produce 2 calves every year and we harvest them at roughly 12 months. But after roughly 6 to 9 months, I've got to separate them so they don't get impregnated by the bull. So I've got to run 2 herds. When I move over to the pocket pond, I'll show you the babies. And you can see this is where I moved the deer feeder to back there. Anyway, it'll end up being bare ground from the deer just stomping it to death, but we'll fix it with hay again. Anyway, let me run over to the pocket pond. All right, so here within the last couple of weeks, I cleaned out this pocket pond. The water comes in right here, and there's actually a couple of steps here, and I actually want to take some big rocks and maybe try to create a little waterfall there, because anytime you can churn the water, you're aerating it. I'm gonna step down in here. I don't know, this thing was probably 2 foot deep before. I want to say it's more like 3 feet, maybe 4 feet deep. I did it with a skid steer. Doesn't give you a lot of skid steer doesn't give you a lot of control and precision. And I'm actually thinking about renting an excavator next couple of days, kind of play around with it to see if it'd be a good investment for me. Anyway, so I scooped all this out, and I'll show you what I did with the dirt. Anyway, first of all, we did add a rock overflow here. This overflow is at ground level. I may have scraped about 2 inches off of it to form the channel, but I figure if the overflow is at ground level, then that takes a lot of pressure off the dam, which is that area back there. Anyway, after we laid the rocks down, I had some decomposed granite here on site, so I dumped it over there and kind of broomed it around to fill in the cracks. I think this is going to help a lot when it comes to a major water event. On one of my ponds where we didn't do this, I had rocks, like big rocks like this, that got turned over by the water flow. So I'm hoping for good things from doing this. Just a simple little thing that didn't take any time. Anyway, as I was scooping the soil out here, we added the rock overflow, and then I added dirt along this side to raise the level. There again, to keep I wanted to keep the water flowing on the rocks. I'm not quite done with it, and in fact, I don't know yet where we're going to go next. I'm going to scoot back a little bit. So there's the rock overflow. You know, probably the next rain I'll kind of see what it's doing, but I think at this point it's going to start turning, and that's good. But you know, after it rains, watch where the water's going, then you can kind of see if I need to do anything else. If it's spreading out, if it leaves here and is spreading out, then I'm gonna call it done. If it's one stream where it's going to cause some erosion, I may add some more rocks. And then I'm going to show you the other area I added the soil when I was digging it up. I got this area here where you can see where there's no grass. That's kind of the lowest spot in this area, so water kind of sits there, and when it sits there for a long time, it'll kill the grass. And it doesn't help either that I'm driving over that same area. But if you look down here, which is back to high ground, I was placing the dirt over there and slowly gonna just make a road that goes down here. This will raise the grade up, which is going to have water stop here, and I may end up with a culvert. I'll show you just to the left side over here. You can see here where the water trail is. And then this is a culvert going across what used to be a road, so I dug that out for water to sit. Anyway, so water's going to flow down here. It's going to puddle in right here. When it fills up, it goes over the culvert. Then I've got another hole over there to let it settle in. Anyway, that's just what I'm doing here in the backyard of my property. I don't think you've met my baby cows, so let me show them to you real quick. What's up, girls? This is my baby cow. This is my baby cow. These are actually ones we will be harvesting sometime this year. This middle one is Claire. She's a milking cow. She doesn't belong to us. We're just storing them for a friend until the cow gets pregnant, and then it's going to go home to them. We're just kind of keeping an eye on them right now. Anyway, I think that covers everything down here in the backyard. Y'all have a great day.